Are you wondering if you could reuse your soil from your containers each year? In this video, I'm going to go over all the questions you have about reusing your soil for your containers. Hi, this is Jeremy Stock here from Green Thumb Garden, here to give you some tips, tutorials, and reviews for all your gardening needs. In today's video, we're going to go over just some tips as far as reusing your soil for your containers. If you're in a hurry, yes, you can. If you want some more information, then stick around. I'm going to give you all my tips for doing it. Before we get started, though, if you could, please give us a green thumbs up. Let us know that we're making great videos for you. Also, if you could, hit that subscribe button down below. That way there you get notified of any new videos that we do post on this channel. Also, we have a website called gardenwiththumb.com where you can get lots of different tips. All right, let's get right into it. All right, so you might have a bunch of different container plants out there that you have all this wonderful soil that you used last year to grow your vegetables, your flowers, your plants, anything else that you had in the garden. I have tons of them in my garden. I use a variety of different pots, and I got those grow bags. I got lots of different containers, and so I've spent through the years adding some soil and everything to those containers. Wouldn't it be a waste if I just had to dump that whole thing out every single year to start over? Yeah, pretty much. So realistically, you don't want to do that. What you can do is you can put it into your compost pile, and if you use your compost for your soil each year, you can do that. That is actually a pretty good way to do it. If you have a big enough compost pile and you want to do that and you want to spend all the time doing the work. I'm kind of like a little lazy kind of gardener, and I don't always do the best things as far as using compost all the time, but I do use my compost when I do put everything in there to freshen up, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. So the short answer, really, like I said before, is that you can reuse your soil from your container plants. There is some caveats to that. That is, if you notice any kind of specific diseases to your particular plants, if you notice a particular, I guess, insect that may be burrowing themselves in the soil that you're using last year, and you had just a really bad time with it, that might be a good time to put that in your compost pile, or to put it in some other pile that you just leave and not use again. That's really one of the things you have to be aware of. So if you had no problems with your vegetables or your flowers or anything, then you can use it. There are some things that you do need to do each time that you are going to reuse it, and it's really best to do it before you actually plant for the new season. Sometimes you can even do it at the end of the season if you really want to help things, to save you a little time at the springtime. So, if you left your containers outside, then most of the time they're going to be fine in there. But if there's, like I said, if you get some kind of varmints, or sometimes I've had some ants actually have like a little thing in my container, then those are the ones you just want to be aware of. But if you're just the ones that you put inside, maybe you put it in your garage at the time, you can do it. So anyways, most containers, before you start planting anything else, whether it be flowers or vegetables, you want to look at the soil and just make sure there's nothing in it that shouldn't be in there. Just to give it a little once over and make sure everything's in there. So you can just kind of look at everything. Sometimes there's like twigs and stuff I didn't notice before, and I just might take out a few things here and there. If you got a lot of containers like I do, you might not even do this step. But it is something, if you're going to bring this inside, maybe you're going to put it on your porch, you just want to make sure there's nothing in there that's going to surprise you later on after you plant everything. So one of the things with containers is that there's not a constant supply of nutrients in it from the soil, because the plant, the vegetable, a flower, whatever you had in here before, the roots were absorbing all of that nutrients, and it does break it down in the soil, so it's not always going to be there. It's been absorbed by the plant. The other thing is too, is if you leave it in there, and it can it can still hold some of the nutrients in there, but after time it may break down too much. So especially if it's been in heat or cold or the extremes, you might find that it's not going to have, if you did like a soil test on it, you'll notice that it'd be less than probably the last season, a little bit less. So one of the three things that you have to add to most plants in a good all-around balanced is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, or the NPK is what you may see on some of the things. So some of the products that we use is blood meal, and this stuff, it works really good. This is for the nitrogen, and this one particularly it's a 12% nitrogen, so it's basically 1200 if you're looking at the NPK. And this is great. You know, it really depends on how much you want to use for each one. It's going to depend on what you're going to put in there. But I'll kind of share with you what my general thing is. But I wanted to show you all of them that I have. The next one is bone meal, and the bone meal is, this one is for mostly the phosphate or the phosphorus, and this one is a 2-14-0. And then the other one is, this is rock dust. You can use a few other different kinds. I'll put what I use for the potassium mostly, but this does work well. The only thing with this stuff is you need a lot of it. You need a lot of it to put in here, so you're gonna have to put a lot, and then it also takes time to break down. But this is still really good. I put this in all of my pots and all my containers and everything. So I do use this. I even put some in the garden as well. It just takes a little while to break down, and it is very dusty. Then you have these are a little bit kind of easy. Like if you want to just dump some stuff in. This one is Joby's. I think Job's. I think that's how you say it. I never heard it said by somebody. But this is more of like an all balanced one, so you don't really have to think too much about it. You just put like a handful of it in, depending on how big your thing is. But this is a 3-4-3. It's made basically of bone meal. It's got manure, sulfate, potash. It's got a bunch of things in it. It is organic, so it's, you know, it's something that if you're really concerned with organics, you know, you can look for that. The other one I think I have is, this one is, I'm not sure what brand this is. This is Nature's Care, and this one is a, let's see, a 10-8. So this one's got a lot of nitrogen in it. So this would be really good for like tomatoes and maybe some eggplant. So things that need a lot of, you know, basically a lot of nitrogen in. So when you go to the store, you want to just look at that lettering on there, and if you wanted to find a balanced one, or you can make your own with it. But one of the other things that I always do, I always do. So I'll add this stuff in here, and like I said, it's going to vary depending on the size of your container. Like this is a really small container. This might be a gallon container. If you got like a 5-gallon container, 10-gallon container, you know, you're just gonna be able to do it. So look at the directions on there. They usually tell you how to do it. I honestly don't even do that. I just take a handful of each and I sprinkle it in. If I know it needs more nitrogen, I'll put a little bit more bone meal, or I'll use one of the ones that has higher nitrogen, or vice versa if it's any other of the nutrients. So, but one of the things that I always put in is I love worms. I'm a big worm person. I love the worms. But they provide a compost that is just unbelievable. The vermicompost that goes in all of my plants. Every time that I put something in the ground, it gets at least a scoop in there. So in all my containers, I will put that in there. It's finished. It's been, you know, aged for a year, so it is full of nutrients in there. So I always suggest that maybe you put a little blend of these in here, because this way you kind of have an idea. You can tailor it towards like tomatoes or whatever other vegetables or flowers that you're growing in there, and then also add in the worm compost in there. You can, if you don't have any worm compost, you can just use regular compost. I would use a blend of cow manure, maybe some chicken manure. But they usually have them in the big box stores. There's different types of it, so you can get. I would just do a blend. I wouldn't do just one or the other. I just find that it's better. They have mushroom compost too. So you can get like a blend and just kind of mix your own, and that's basically putting it in there. The other thing is if you need to add some other things in there, like some of the little, you can add the perlite in there, which is those little white things. If you notice that the plant, if it doesn't have any in here, I would add a little bit of that, and you can get big bags of those. Vermiculite, you can also add in there too, but perlite probably be a little bit better for the containers. It's just probably cheaper. And then you can, add, you don't want to add ground soil in here because it's just really dense. It's just what it's made out of. It's not made for containers. But you can also just add more soil mix to it too if you're really not sure. Just add some more in there, put a little bit of this, some nutrients in there, and then you should be good to go. So really, that's it. I mean, I'm not going to really get into too much depth. I'll link up some stuff up there. I think that might help you out if you wanted to take a look at something, and also look at the show notes. I'll put some more information down there. But the bottom line is, don't throw the stuff away. Please reuse it, recycle, reduce, recycle, all that good stuff. Well, hopefully if you enjoyed this video, please give us a green thumbs up. Let us know that we're making great videos for you. Also, if you could, hit the subscribe button. It's down there below somewhere. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's there. Hit the button so you get notified of any new videos that we do have. We also have a website, like I said, gardenerthumb.com, and that's where we will have all our tips, tricks, and all that other stuff out there as well. We also did open up a garden theme clothing store. We also have some garden products in there we're slowly rolling out. But there's some shirts and some cool mugs and things like that that are all garden themed, so you guys might find some of those funny. So check that out as well. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.